Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we could hear you. I think you're a bit on the lower end, but I could probably turn you up on my end.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let me make sure we're recording. All right. Cool. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blender workshop. This is also going to be our last workshop for the semester. Thank you all for coming. I hope you all have Blender installed. So if you do, you could open it up right now. You should be greeted with a page similar to this. If it's your first time using Blender, it's going to ask you to set up a few settings. Honestly, most of it should just be default. What's great about Blender is that it's an open source free software that still receives a lot of updates, and they're still continuously updating it. So it's primarily used as like a render engine. You could use it to create different images or model stuff, and then there's a lot of like different uses for it. Just like you could use it for animations. You could use it for procedural generation. At some point, they even had like a game engine feature, but I think that's been deprecated since then. So yeah, we could start. Your basic scene will usually contain these three components. I'm going to So if you see like me have some features on here that you may not have, that's because I have a bunch of plugins and add-ons that just help with the Blender process. Like here on the left-hand side, you should be able to see my mouse input, and you can also see my keyboard input. That's to help out with the process. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Uh, Feel free to unmute or do any of that. Actually, let me send. Give me a second. Link. Okay. So I'm gonna send my notes that I have for this workshop onto here, and the meeting general. Any of the yeah. So I'll send my notes onto here in the meeting general. Any of the how do I put it? Yeah. Any of the controls that we go over should be in this menu. And then I'll also explain what each feature does, just so everyone is adjusted to how it's going. So every time you open up a Blender scene, it's gonna come with 3 different components. It's gonna have the default cube here, and then it's going to have this thing, which is your camera, and then it's going to have this light up here. So basically, these are the 3 main components that make up a render. A render is whatever is seen through the lens of the camera, and you'll need the light and the an object there to actually show something. We'll show an example of like what the render could look like. This is what it's like in rendered view. So you'll have here the light is projecting onto the cube and then bounces back. The camera is seeing whatever is in this view. We'll go into more on how to get into these views and all of that later on. But yeah, you could move, as you can see, I moved the light around, and then the lighting will change accordingly, and it reflects off the cube differently and all of that. And then yeah, we'll get started with basic movement. So basic movement, you're navigating a 3D space. I don't know, depending on what game project you're working on, and depending what part of the game project you're working on, you may have not worked in 3D before. So basic movement in Blender is you could rotate around the scene with the middle mouse button, and then you could hold shift, and then you could press the middle mouse button to actually move your mouse around in the screen. Along with that, you can also zoom in and out by using the scroll wheel. That helps a lot. And then you could also left click to select. If you're on 2.7 or earlier, it's going to be right click to select, which was really weird. But now they changed it to left click to select, which is like the standard for almost anything on the computer. So you should be fine with that. And then you could right click to get certain menus depending on what you've selected, and all of that. Yeah. Does everyone get basic? Does everyone understanding the basic movement through for Blender? All right.
Is it better to have a mouse when we're using Blender?
Ooh, okay. I think you can use I think yeah, that might be rough. I think you could use like the 2 fingers and then like sort of like pinch on the mouse pad to zoom out, I think. And then I'm not fully sure on how to properly navigate without a mouse. I think you can if you have, do you have a number pad by any chance?
A number pad?
Yeah. It should be on the keyboard, and then let me send a picture.
Like just the 1, 2, 3, 4, like in like a little section on the right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, so if you sorry, just gonna be double images. If you use the number pad 4, you go left. If you use number pad 6, you use right. Oh, okay. Thank you, Isabella. Yeah. So there's a little tutorial on that, on how to use Blender without a mouse pad. Yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned mouse was like would be extremely helpful for something like this. Any other questions? All right, cool. So yeah, and then next up, you want to try and like move your actual object around. So primarily, we're going to be working with the cube here, or we're going to just be messing around with the cube just to show all of our examples. So if you press S, you can see that you can scale the cube up and down, or larger and smaller. And then if you right click, it will go back to its original position before you, or its original size before you scaled. But if you left click, you'll get the new size. You can also use Control Z to undo, and then yeah, Control Z is for undo. I don't think they've implemented the redo, but yeah, you could Control Z if you don't like how it went. And then you could also, if you want this like little menu here where it says like transform and it shows all of the item, the description of the item, you could press N, and then you'll get that little menu to show up. This menu kind of just has a lot of things that you could do. You can manually input numbers and that sort of thing here, but you could also input values when you're pressing scale. So you press scale, let's say I want to double the size of this, you just press S and then you type in 2, and then you can press enter. So now it's double the size of the original. And then you could also, let's undo this. You could also scale like just by a specific axis. So let's say you want to make this more rectangular on the x-axis. So you could press scale for S and then press X on the x-axis, and then you can move it there. You could also do the same for the y-axis, same for the z-axis, all of that. So you could make it grow, make it like a little thing right there. Yeah. And then you could also, this is something I don't know if you'll do much when you're, I don't know if you'll do much at the beginning, but you could also do Shift Z or Shift X, and that will pick both axes except for the X axis. And then same with Shift D, that picks the X and Y axis to move your thing along. You'll see this more useful when you're moving the object around. Next up, we could go into rotation. Rotation, you press R to control the object, and then you could rotate it. You can see here that it's like there's no specific axis it's rotating on. Usually with rotation, you want to be more precise on the axis. You could press R, and then you could press X, and then you'll rotate on the x-axis. R, Y, rotate on the y-axis, and then R, Z, and then rotate on the z-axis. If you're coming from Unity or other 3D modeling programs, you may notice that the y-axis and the z-axis are actually flipped. Don't ask me why it's like that. That's just how Blender is. I went from Blender to all the other 3D programming softwares, or 3D modeling softwares, so this was different. So it was different for me to realize that Y is like up and down. But for here, Z is going to be up and down. Yeah, that's kind of just how it is. But we'll go into how to convert that later into Unity. Yeah, and then last but not least, you want to also move your thing around. So you could press G, and then the same rules apply. You can kind of move it wherever you want, eyeball it if you want to, and then you press X, and then you can put in a value if you want to move it a certain distance, or Y, and then Z. Yeah, and then this is where it mostly applies, like the whole Shift Z, or like if you want to move it along 2 axes at once, you could just move it like that, or you could move it along like vertical for this reason, like that. And yeah, it should be good. Is there any questions on how to move, scale, or rotate an object? All right. I think. All right. Yeah. Cool. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So, let's say you want to have more objects similar to this cube. You could press Shift A, and then under Shift A, you're going to get this menu that pops up. You may not have all of these things here. Again, I have some extra stuff on here just to help with whatever I'm working on. But if you click on mesh, and then you can see these things. You probably won't see like landscape, anything like past landscape, or you might not even see landscape, I think, or a grid. But you could pick like different shapes. Let's say we want to add a spear. It's going to spawn the spear. It's going to create the spear wherever this like red reticle is, which by default, it should be in 0, 0, 0. So it's going to be inside the cube, which is why we don't see it right now. But if we just double click on the cube or like click where the spear should be, you can move it around. So here we have our spear right here. And then if we don't want the spear or if we don't want another object, we could just press X, and then that will create a prompt to delete the object. You could just double click, you could just click on the prompt and it will delete that object. You have a lot of options in terms of what you want to do for a shape. Let's delete this. In terms of a shape, you could get a plane, which is just 4 points, and then it creates a face in a square. That's pretty nice. You could also get a cube, just like earlier. Something that people tend to do is we call it deleting the default cube. So regardless, like people will just open a scene, delete the default cube, and then add in a new cube. I don't know why people do that. I know I do it, and I don't even know why I do that. So that's just something. It kind of gets memed on, and yeah, it's a rite of passage. It's pretty much, it gets memed on in the Blender community a lot. Maybe after the workshop, I could send some of those videos. We also have a circle. This is sort of like I haven't really had too much use for this. There's some other uses, but personally, I haven't used it too much. We have the spear that we mentioned from earlier. We have the icosphere. And then with these spears, you could actually change... Oh, wait, sorry. You could actually change like the amount of like... You can see it's like composed of a bunch of different triangles. You can actually change how much it's like... How much triangles it's composed by, which actually smooths it out a lot more or a lot less depending on what you're trying to create. Depending on your computer, you want to be careful on how many spears, I guess, like how many points an object has, or how many faces an object has, because it could get really messy really quick, and you don't want a model that's like too much noise. Otherwise, you could crash your computer. And especially in game development, you're trying to render all of those points at once. That's definitely going to be causing some problems later on. I'll show you an example of a really messy model that I did a while back. And definitely something that I just can't import into games, and not even something I could import into like a 3D printing station or something like that. We could also, just to show the example, you could also increase the amount of like segments and here in the sphere. And then there's also a cylinder. Then you could increase the segments, that sort of thing. Then we also have a cone. Then we have a torus, which is essentially a donut-like shape. And then last but not least, we also have, it says monkey, so you might be curious what that is. The model is called Suzanne. I don't really know the reasoning behind it, but basically, I think they just wanted like a default, I guess, sort of model to show like show different shadows and that sort of thing. And I believe Suzanne's like 50 faces or something like that. There's a whole Wikipedia page about it. I don't really know why. It's a monkey, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of cute. Yeah. All right. Are there any questions regarding how to add objects and any of that sort? All right. Cool. Sorry, give me a second. All right. Let's add back our cube from earlier. Let's say you want to have like this exact cube. Sorry. Let's say you want to have this exact cube, but like, okay, let's say we made a few like changes to this cube. You want to have this exact cube with the exact dimensions and all of that, but you just want another one that duplicates it. You could duplicate objects by selecting on the object you currently have, and then you could press Shift D, and it's going to duplicate that object. And then there you have two of the exact same cube. And then if you want to select multiple objects and duplicate multiple objects, you just hold Shift and then click on both of them, or click on all of them, and then you can press Shift D, and then you're able to duplicate them accordingly. Yeah. So now we have multiple things here. Let me just start rotating them to make them look a bit different, because for the next example, yeah. So we have a few of our rectangles here. Oh, I see Quimani, I see Gordon typing. Are there ways to snap to corners and edges? Or are you going to go into that later? Yes, there are ways to do that. I'll go into that a bit later, since right now we're just doing basic navigation. Yeah. Yeah, it's those are really useful, especially when you want to be more precise in your modeling. For me, I do more like weird organic stuff, so I don't typically play around with it, but sometimes it is kind of useful, especially when cleaning up meshes and stuff like that. All right, so this is for if you have a. This is primarily for if you have a keypad, and then I could also. Where's it? Yeah. All right, so if this is for if you have a keypad, you'll follow these instructions. If you don't, I'll show you the respective view on how to get to this view. So you could go into different views in Blender. This helps with like more precise modeling, because if you see, let's say we stretch this out a lot more, you can see if you're trying to model something, just because of how perspective works and how your eyes work, here you have the rectangle, but this rectangle from the rectangle further in the front looks a lot bigger than how it is further in the back. This leads to some more imprecise modeling when you're trying to do different things, depending on what you want to model, right? Yeah. And then, so let's delete that. You want to try and be more precise with what you're doing. So we're going to go into our front view. So our front view, you could see with the different keypads, 1, 3, 7, and 9. So if we go to 1, you can see we only have the z-axis and then the x-axis. And if you want to go like to the side view or side profile, you could go 3, which you'll see just the y-axis and the z-axis. If you want to try seeing the top view, everything from above, you press 7, and then you're going to see it from here. Now, if you don't have a keypad, no problem. You could just, and if you want to leave the mode, you could just press the, you can either press the thing again, or actually no, don't press it again, or you could just press the middle mouse button, and then you'll go back into whatever view you're doing it from. If you don't have a number pad, no worries. You could use these axes right here. You could actually use this to rotate if you want. Actually, might be what the tutorial that Isabella sent might actually be going over. But you could click on like a specific axis like this, and then you could get the different views. Yeah. And then if you want, like if you're using the number pad, like let's say this is the front view, you want to see it from the back view, you press 9. And this goes for any of the views. They'll just like sort of reverse and inverse, that sort of thing. Yeah. All right. And then most importantly, I guess, I don't know if it's important for game development, but if you want to create some renders or create your own like images and you want to see what the camera sees, you could press 0 on the number pad, or you could press toggle camera view. There's like a little camera here, and then it will toggle the camera view, so you'll enter there. Yeah, and then that's the camera. I think we can actually. So if you like, let's say you have your camera here, but you want to see it from a different angle, you could either just manually move the camera, something like this. But honestly, I kind of hate navigating the camera like that. Just because it's like you don't get to see exactly what's in the frame, and then you have to leave and then keep like readjusting. But if you want, you could go into camera view, and then in the settings, which you should have with the N here under the view tab, you could click camera to view. And then when you start moving around, you'll see everything from the cameras. This is what the camera sees. And then make sure you click camera to view and you turn it off again. And then you could see your camera has changed position to match the current view that you wanted. All right. I know that was a lot of information. Are there any questions? All right. And then I think this is, let's see, basics, object mode. Okay, yeah. So I think just to quickly go over the question that Jordan asked, we could go here. I believe it should be this one. Yeah. So yeah, so if you you can see that all of Blender works on like grid, depending on how you use it. If you want to use like the grid and be extremely precise with your movement, you could press like, let's say you want to transform or like move an object by like just one space exactly. You could either like, let's say we want to move it over here by one, but just on the x-axis. Just as I said before, you could press G, X, and then move it by one. But if you don't want to type it out and just sort of want to get a feel for how it's going to be, press G and then hold Control, and then you can move it, and it just sort of snaps into place like that. So that's how you get the object to move onto, snap onto edges and stuff like that. All right. And then next up, we're going to go into actually modeling certain things. Mine isn't doing that. Oh, okay. I could help you out later. Yeah, that's weird. Okay, well, I can help you out with that later on. All right, so let's clear some space. You can delete these if you want, but I'm keeping them for an example that I'm about to show. Let's say we want to start modeling our cube. We want to make it something. I don't know what we want to make it. We'll figure that out. We can press tab. That goes into edit mode. Now, edit mode, you're gonna start seeing like these vertices pop up, or these little dots. Those are called vertices. And then you can see that if you actually click on the cube, you're not actually clicking on the object itself anymore. You're clicking on the individual vertices. And if you notice that if you try and click on the other objects, you're actually not clicking on them. Nothing's actually popping up. So what this does is that it allows you to manipulate the shape of the object, and then you can sort of like transform it to how you want it to be. And then once you leave, you can press tab to leave edit mode, and then your object now looks like whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but yeah. Let's go back into object mode because there's a lot of things that you could do with this. It is shaped. That is true. It is very shaped. Let's do that. Same rules apply with all of the geometry and stuff like that. If you don't want to select just on the vertices, you could also select like just an edge or a face. How you do that is you go up here on the top left hand corner. You'll see these little things right here next to the edit mode. It shows like a little dot, then like a rectangle, then like a square. This is vertex, edge, and faces respectively. So for you could, let's say we want to select the edges, you could select the edge right here, and edge is a line between two vertices. And then you can also scale edges and then rotate them accordingly. That's something like you won't really notice with a vertice as much. And then if you want to move a face, just a face, you can just click on the square, and then oh no, that's extruding. You could just move the faces like that. Yeah. Are there any questions on how to select just those? typing. So what am I supposed to be pressing to move the vertices? Like when you click on the object, does it do the vertices not show up? They do. Okay. You just press G, like G to move, and then you can left click, and it's the same controls as before. Yeah. All right. Cool. 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 All right. Wait. Okay. Waiting. Okay. Well, all right. So while that is all right, we'll move on to other parts of the edit mode. All right. So I'm gonna go back to object mode. Then I'm going to delete this object, and then I'm gonna place in the sphere because I think this works better for our new example. I'm gonna go into edit mode for sphere, and then yeah, so if you actually hold Z, and this applies to object mode as well, if you hold Z, you're going to see these 4 different options pop up. Material view preview is something we'll get into later, that basically shows like what the object's color is and all of the details, but it doesn't actually render it, so it doesn't have any lighting applied to it. If you want rendered view, view is basically material preview, but it has all the light applied, so it does all the lighting calculations. Typically, you want to stay in, if you're working with the materials, you want to stay in material preview until you want to see what it looks like with the lights. And then wireframe mode. Wireframe mode is what we're going to be working with when we're in edit mode. It basically shows the object and all of its wired glory. You can just like see it, but if you notice here, you might not be able to. Never mind, wrong. But yeah, you can see through the object and then see all the stuff behind it, which is very useful, especially for modeling. We'll go into why that is in a second. So let's go into tab, and let's say I want to move this entire face or this entire front of the thing forward. Let's say I want to move this part forward. Give me a second. All right, yeah. I'm gonna move this part forward. Now you could just like shift click and then pick all the spots that you want to. However, that's incredibly inconvenient. What you could do is actually press C, and then a little circle is going to show up. You could actually increase or decrease that circle accordingly, and then you could just right click here, and then it's going to mass select all of these components. If you want, you could also do this in base view. I typically like doing things in base view just because it means I don't have to deal with loose vertices later on. And then you could just move it forward like that. You just the move control should be the same, just like G. You can also scale it, and you could even rotate it if you want to, depending on what you're trying to achieve and accomplish. Yeah. And then let's say you don't want to get all of these faces on the next move, so you're going to press C, and then instead of, you could actually middle mouse click, and then it will remove some. Or you could just press Shift and then left click to get rid of individual faces or vertices, depending on whatever you're selecting. All right. And then let's say I want to move something in the front and the back of this object. Like I want to get this side, and I want to select both. Give it a second. All right, so we're gonna go into wireframe view, and then you're gonna see a bunch of dots show up with the edit mode. If you press C and then you select here, you're gonna notice that you've selected both the front and the back, which has its benefits and its downsides, right? Pros and cons. I typically use this if I want something to be more symmetrical, or if I'm trying to do something that the mirror tool can't really fix. We'll actually go into symmetry in a second. And then let's say I want to scale both of these forward. Let's say S, X, and then you can move it both forward like that. So if we go back to this view, it's just like sort of, it's like it stabbed a little spear right there. All right. Are there any questions? All right. All right. Next up, we'll go back into edit mode. I just want to quickly touch over the symmetry, mesh symmetry. So if you want to like model something and you want it to be very precise, you could actually click up here on the top right-hand corner. It shows X, Y, and Z. It shows, X, Y, and Z. Whichever one respectively, you'll actually model. Like if you're modeling characters, this is a great way to model arms and feet. That way you don't have to do it twice, or you don't have to deal with modifiers, because it is very annoying if you don't actually do it right. Yeah. All right. And then let's say you want, we want an indent on this sphere. I'm just gonna make a new sphere. You want indent on this sphere. Like you want an indent, but you don't want it to like, let's say you have it like this. You don't want it to cave in with the other vertices like this. We're actually going to do something, or you want to move it forward, but you don't want these things to move forward like that, because otherwise it like feels a bit weird, doesn't feel like it's extruding out. So we're going to use the extrude feature. If you select part of the mesh, right, and then you press E, you could actually extrude, and it creates new volume or new vertices on top of what you selected, and then you can move it and manipulate it around. Here we can actually indent with this, and then you could extrude and it goes inwards. It's like we made a little Death Star. And then you could just like, you could play around with it. I think this spear is a great way to sort of figure out what you want to do. You could extrude that in. All right. And then you could just leave tab view, or yeah, leave edit mode by pressing tab, and then you can see your new object. Are there any questions? Anyone lost? All right, cool. Yeah, okay. And let's go back into the edit mode. If you want, like, let's say you want like a little branch to come out of this, like this rectangle. However, if you move it, you're gonna move the rest of that. If you extrude it, it's not exactly what you wanted. Like even if you shrink it like that, let's say you just want exactly like half of this, like this half. You want like this half to just be extruded. That is still possible. We're going to do something called cutting an edge loop. So if you press Control R, it's going to show this little pop-up, and it might be a little bit finicky. It looks a bit finicky, but it's a great tool. You could press it here, and you could hold onto it if you don't fully select it, and it's going to create a cut in between. You could kind of drop it wherever. Let's say I just want it a bit up here, and it creates a new cut. Now, if you select it, you'll have to switch back to face view again. Whenever you use edge loop, it's going to turn you into edge mode, or select an edge. And if you press, you have to just go back to face select. Let's say I want to get that cut out now, and then now you could get a cut like that. You just extrude it that way. So yeah, you can. What's great is that you could sort of just like combine different strategies or different ways. So I could press extrude, move it up, and then extrude, shrink, move it in, and then you can move it down. That way you have a little bit of like, it looks a bit different, bit of depth, that sort of thing. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah, that is me on a Monday morning, especially Thanksgiving week. Why can't we get the whole week off? Anyways, that's my own problems. All right, so let's say you want a bit more, like you want more faces on this face, like, or you want more faces on this shape, or you want more, I guess, points or vertices to reference. And this is not really doing it for you. You could actually select all by pressing A. If you don't want to select all, you could just not click on it or click off it. I'm gonna select all. I want to add more faces. We're gonna do something called subdivide. So it's gonna divide each square up into different components. We're gonna click subdivide here. You can see it just like doubled or quadrupled the amount of squares that are on the scene. So each individual square turned into a smaller square. All of that. And if you want, so there you have more faces. However, I know you may want to make it more round or something like that. You could subdivide, and then you could turn up the smoothness down here, the smoothness meter. Turn it up. With here, the spear, since we already modified the spear, it might be a bit funky, so it might not be ideally what you want, but if you want more shapes, now you have more shapes to play around with. And you can get more random objects like this. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go over one last thing for the edit mode, and then we should be good. Actually, this might work better in here. Let's say you're working on landscape. You want to make an environment. You want to make a little valley for your game. You want to make a little valley. So we're gonna create a plane. We're gonna increase it. You can increase it by like 10. That's like a good amount. And then you go into edit mode. There is not much you can manipulate here. If you try editing the face, there's only one face for the plane. So you're not really going to do much there. What you can do is right click and subdivide. So you're going to subdivide. Here on the number of cuts, I'm going to increase this to like 50. So that's going to create a bunch of those things. Actually, let's make it 100. Now every square sort of broken up into 100 different pieces. All very even. And then let's go into vertice mode. Let's say I want to make a little valley or like a little hill, that sort of thing. If you like try getting individual pieces and trying to move them up like this, you're not going to get very like nice looking results. If you want like little plateaus, sure, this looks okay. But otherwise, it feels a bit weird. What you could do instead is up here you have proportional editing. It shows a little circle and then like a little curve right there. This is like probably one of the best tools that I've used in Blender. Once you select on it, you'll see the thing light up, and then when you select on a vertice and then press grab, you could see that there's like a little circle that forms. You could increase the circle or decrease it with the scroll wheel, and then you could actually move and manipulate your thing up and down. It looks a bit trippy. Honestly, it looks kind of cool. So let's say I want to make a hill like right here. It like interpolates all the other objects or all the other vertices in the area, and then it allows you to manipulate it like that. And then everything else around it sort of changes, so you could like make more smooth objects, that sort of thing. You could also change it to different things. Like if you want it like constant, you could press here. Creates like a little constant depending on the radius. You want it like a bit more sharper, you could have it like that. That can make like a nice little, I don't really know what that is. If you want like a dome, you can click on that. Yeah, and you could do it like that. But I think the fun one is you could subdivide 100. Cool. There is a random, which is pretty interesting. Just like randomly picks the vertices and then how much they go up and go down. Doesn't actually yeah, if you want something like really weird, something like this can be like a lot of like really good noise to add to your model. Uh, but yeah, just make sure you turn it off again, because sometimes if you don't turn it off, or if you forget to turn it off, it might, yeah, it might be a bit messy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for like the basics of how to model and stuff like that. So we'll go into some examples now of actual modeling. Actually, no, let's do colors real quick. Okay, so we have two spheres here. If you, let's say we want to change the color of the spheres, this is just to get some basic, just to show the basics of how to add colors to objects. You can select on one of the spheres. Let's say I want to go with the left one. You could go here on this right panel and then go to material properties, which should be the circle with segmented into 4 parts with the red and black sort of counteracting each other. You could click on new. So it's gonna, I don't know why it loads like that, but and then you could sort of pick your color here. Now you notice here nothing's actually changing, and this is where the material view comes into play. If you hold Z like earlier, you could click material preview, and then you could see like how the object changed color. Similar to here, we could also change this. Let's make this green. So now we have a green and a blue sphere. That's cool. Fun. And yeah, you can sort of change a lot of features about it. You could make it like more metallic. You could also change the roughness so it's like shinier, or depending on what you want to make it. You could actually also, like, if the spheres are like too square for you, you could actually right click on the sphere and then click shade smooth. This goes for any like curved object, just so you don't see the vertices. You could actually click shade smooth. That gets rid of the thing. However, you may run into some problems here where you extrude it like that, and then it looks really weird like this. What you could do, there's a small fix to this. However, this goes into a lot more that you could go to modifiers where like the little wrenches here. You go to add modifier and you click on edge split, which should be right here. Kind of lets you have both worlds where it's like you have the edges that are clearly defined, that should be edges, and then the ones that aren't, more like smooth shapes, you have it right there. But yeah, you could remove that and it's about the same. Are there any questions about colors or what I just did with edge split right there? You're also welcome to unmute and talk. All right. So that kind of goes into basics of the controls of how to use Blender for modeling. If now we're gonna go into trying to actually model something. I think this we could try doing a Pokeball, especially with the new Pokemon games that just came out. That would be something that's like nice and easy to sort of model. So we're going to start off with adding in a sphere. Shift A, you want to add in your mesh, and then you put in UV sphere. You have your sphere right here, and then I'm going to go back into solid mode just because the white kind of like distracts me. I don't know why. And then you could go into edit mode. So for edit mode, the Pokeball shape, it's like this. The rim kind of goes inside, and then you have like the little circle in the middle, and then you have the top and the bottom are different colors, and then the inside is black. So we're going to try and mimic that. So what we have here is our sphere. We want to get these 2 rows to be selected, and then we're going to extrude it downwards. So we could, there's 2 ways to do this. The first way is the way we've been trying to approach it is we could go front view, click on our front view, yeah, by either clicking the Y here. and then we could press C, and then we could select all of these things here if we're in wireframe mode. And then that way we've selected all the stuff in the middle. There's also another way to do it. We could press 1, let's go into solid view. You could press Shift Alt and then click on the edge here. Make sure you click it like closer to the horizontal than closer to the vertical. If you click it closer to the vertical, you're going to get this selection. But if you Shift Alt and then click here, you're going to get that. And then you can Shift Alt again and get there. So now it selects everything that wraps around it. And then from there, you could press E, and then we could press S to scale. So we extruded and then we scaled, and then we can move it in a little bit till it's like a little indent, however much you like, and then we could get it like that. Does anyone need help getting up to that?
Oh, yeah. How do we extrude it in?
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have everything selected?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can press E, and then you could press S to scale it in, and then while you're pressing S, you just sort of move the mouse in, and then it's going to start moving it closer. Does that work?
When I press E, it like kind of just like moves the slice.
Do you can you share your screen? I don't know, I'll check it out.
Let me. Do I have to like start like a streaming thing?
I think.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, give me a second. All right. Oh, okay. All right. So, let's see. You could press. Let's add in a new sphere. Just go to object mode.
A new sphere?
Yeah, let's put in a new sphere just in case. Yeah.
Okay.
Then select the two things again. You could, yeah.
I think I just messed it up.
That's okay. You could right click to get off that select view, and then just click off the model to get rid of all selections.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. And then you could press C, and then
Yeah. Oh, I know what's wrong. I'm making my thing too big, I think.
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. All right. Yeah, and then you could right click, and then once you're in that view, you could press E, and then immediately after press S,
Okay.
and then you could scale it. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Nice. All right. Oh wait, I stopped streaming. My bad. All right. Does anyone else need any help getting to this point? All right, cool. And then, so while we're here, we might as well add our color in. So you could go into material preview, and since everything is selected, if it's not selected, you could just press Shift Alt and then click, or Shift Alt click, and then click again to get it like this. Make sure you're clicking closer to the horizontal than you are to the vertical. We're gonna go here into our thing, and then we're going to add in different materials. So we're gonna add a new, we're gonna call this the top. We're gonna add in a new material. Just press this plus sign right here, and then we're gonna call this the bottom. And then we're going to click our new material, and then we're going to call this the middle. So here for the top, we're going to make it red. So you can see it makes the entire thing red, which we'll fix later. For the bottom, we're going to make it white. It's already white. I'll show you how to make it white in a second. And then in the middle, you're going to make it black. Match the Pokeball. Or if you want to change it to whatever colors you want, you're free to do that as well. Since we have everything selected, you want to make sure you click on the middle color right here. And then you click Assign. And then you'll see here, everything changes into everything that was selected changes into that black color from earlier. Does anyone need help getting that middle band to be? All right. All right. So we have the middle band as black. And then we're going to select everything from the bottom here. So let's go back into our front view. We're in our material preview. And then you want to press, you could actually box select if you press B instead of the circle select right here. We're going to press B. Actually, let's go into wireframe mode. We're going to press B. And then we're going to drag over our box over here, and it's going to select all of that. This is how we're going to get our bottom color. So our bottom is going to be white. So we're going to click Assign right here. And then if we go back to our material preview, everything's sort of looking like a Pokeball. Cool. Cool. Also, if you want to save this, I just haven't saved this so far, you could press Control S, and it lets you save. That's an asset for Game Pitch Team. But yeah. Just call this. You could press Control S to save, or you could go File, File Save. Yeah, and then you could just press Control S whenever you want to save. I highly recommend you save. One time I was working on a really big personal project, and I didn't save, and I lost like 3 hours of progress, which made me really sad. But yeah, that's how it is. You could have, this is the Pokeball shape, and we want to get that little circle in the middle. Now, there's different approaches to how to do it. I think we'll just go with the sort of the janky way to do it for now, just because, yeah, just so it's easier. We could also try and, how do we assign it again? Yeah, so let's go into, when you're in edit mode, on the materials preview, whatever you have selected, there should be a new set of buttons called select, deselect, and assign. So make sure you want to go into whatever you want selected here, and then you just click the assign button. Make sure that the color that you want to assign it to, the color you want to assign it to is actually the one you have right there. Yeah, of course. All right. Yep. All right, so now let's actually stay in edit view because we want to make all of this one object. While we're in edit view, you can, we'll add in a new shape. Let's add in a cylinder just to get that center. That. For me, I don't know why it's like this, so I changed it earlier. So by default, it should be 32, I think. And then you could change it to like 64 or something, just so it's more clear. And then, so it's going to be bigger than our Pokeball. We don't want it like that. We could either start by rotating it or start by scaling it. I'm going to start by scaling it. So I'm going to scale it down. Actually, no, let's start by rotating it. I'm going to rotate it, press S or R, type in R, and then X, and then you could type in 90. And then you can press enter. That way it's like perfect 90 degrees. And then we're going to go here onto our side view. So we're going to scale it down, or let's go into wireframe mode. Let's scale it down to here, something like that, and then scale on the y-axis specifically, and then we can move it forward, pressing G and then Y, and then we move it up. That way we get it like right here. and then from there we could click on just this face specifically. Actually, we could change the color for this real quick. Yeah, so now we could change the color. I think it's black in the middle. Yeah, black, and then we'll have the white indent in a bit. So yeah, change the color here. Then you could press, go back to this view, and then press E, and then scale it down. So you could get that little. Our goal is to try and make like this little indent right here. This little, I guess like shop or little button, and then you could change this. Since it's already selected, we'll change this to white. We're going to assign the white color, and then we're going to extrude it forward, and then from there we're going to extrude it in again, and then extrude it forward one more time. And you can see the color didn't carry over. Sometimes that happens. What you want to do then is just go into wireframe. You could go into your side profile. You could press B and select all of this. Make sure, what matters is that you're selecting this center point right here. So make sure the box goes over those center components. You can click on that and then assign the white color. And then there you have a little Pokeball. Does anyone need help? I know that was a lot of stuff at once. Willing to help out.
How do we like extrude the different parts of the rectangle?
Of the rectangle?
Or the cylinder. I mean.
Oh,
the cylinder.
Okay. So you could select on its specific face. On the face. So if you go into edit mode, let's say the face select, you could click on the face right here, and then you could press E, and then that will move only the face. If you want, you could stream again, and then I could help you out with
I think I messed up my cylinder though. I think like you said something about like 32 and 64, and then like I couldn't find out how to change that.
that. Oh, okay. I mean, like, does it still like look like a cylinder, or is it like?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be exactly. I just had it like that just because that's just the numbers that I prefer. It doesn't have to be exact. I think like it's a bit finicky, like when you're adding in a new object. I think once you click off of the new object that you created, you can't edit like how many vertices unless if you try and manually fix it up. Let me see your screen. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the what I said, like the numbers I said earlier with like the 32 and the 64, that doesn't necessarily. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could do that. That doesn't necessarily apply. So you have the face right there. You can press E, and then you can scale it down, or press S to scale. Yeah, so scale like that, and then you could press E again to extrude it out. Move it forward, yeah, like that, and then you could press. You could also move it back if you want. Just press G, and then it'll G, and then what? Yeah, or yeah. You could press S again to scale it, or to extrude and then scale it down. Yeah. Yeah, and then you can move it forward one more time if you want. I think yeah, you could extrude it again if you want, so you could get, so it's not like carrying those other rectangles with you. Yeah, nice. And then you could go into, if you press, or if you go on the side view, I think you could press the X on the little axes thing up on the top right corner. All right, cool. All right, Jordan, do you want me to go over that again? For the button piece. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that real quick. Let's see. Sorry, give me a second. Yeah. All right. So here we have the cylinder right here. So we're gonna press E. So make sure we have just the face selected. So right here, you can press E, and then you can scale it immediately. We're gonna scale it down to however much you want. And then we're going to press E again, and then we're going to move it forward just a little bit.
Wait a second.
Oh yeah, sorry.
You're good. And then we just do that process again.
Yeah, you do the process again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and scale, and then move it forward. And then if you want to add the color for the white, you just press 3 on the number pad, or just press this X here. And then you could press wireframe mode, Z, go to wireframe mode, and then press B, and then you get the box select. So then you could select all of these faces up here, and then you just change it to the white color. Is everyone good? All right. I'd say like for the very basics of Blender modeling, that pretty much covers it. I'm gonna quickly go over just some like other resources that you could go into, and if you need a lot more, I know like I'm not sure if my tutorial was exactly the greatest, but we can also, there's also a lot of YouTubers out there, and I think I linked all of these in my notes here. This video is good.
What's going on, everybody? So a couple days ago I posted the art.
Give me a second. But yeah, so these YouTubers kind of cover like different aspects of the Blender Blender Guru is probably the most like popular beginner friendly tutorial. He's most known for his donut modeling tutorial. This takes like hours to like do, or I don't know if it takes hours, but definitely like takes a while to do. If you really want to like learn like the ins and outs of like the very basics of Blender, I think this is a good start. I will send all of their links in the chat actually. Ducky 3D goes into a lot of materials and stuff like that. So if you're trying to create textures for your game and you don't want to actually like draw out the textures and do all of that, you could procedurally create textures using Ducky's tutorials. He does a lot of cool stuff. I think his videos are the reason why I got back into Blender. Like here you can make like reptile skin, that sort of thing, just out of like a bunch of like math and nodes, and he kind of walks you through how to do all of that. Default Cube, he just does a bunch of cool like random stuff with Blender. It kind of shows like how Blender can be used for more than just 3D modeling. You could use it for editing and other different things. I did not know he did waffle videos. I don't whether he still makes videos or not is a bit he's a bit more inconsistent with his videos now, because I think he has another channel now where he just like walks around the US now. So it's kind of cool that he does both at the same time, but that means his schedule might be a bit more inconsistent. And then Ian Huber is this guy is really cool. He does these videos that called lazy tutorials, where he'll basically like teach an entire subject or like teach you how to do a certain thing in Blender within a minute. Like here you can make a whole city within
times. You can take a while. I made one floor and I just copied it. Duplicate the building, scale down all the faces, and add a wireframe modifier. This is going to be the rebar. Add a material. You can UV unwrap it or just
this is definitely something that
put it back.
Definitely something that you follow along like once you have a better understanding of Blender, but it is like really cool to sort of see its
Create a
process.
cube, subdivide it, and add some fractal action. Now use the Boolean modifier to eat away at the building. To see what you're doing, turn off ray visibility for the Boolean modifier and set the display to bounds. Duplicate the Boolean, scale it down, and use it on the rebar now. Let's add some glass. Nice! Scale it up, scale it down, duplicate it all, adjust it. In today's modern apocalyptic environments, one needs a way to escape from fire. May I recommend a fire escape? Use a wireframe modifier and an array. Hey, put it anywhere. Same deal, but make a billboard. Model some debris. If you use chaotic enough image textures, the modeling doesn't matter much. Duplicate the whole deal. Move around the Boolean chunks a few times, and you've got yourself an apocalyptic city. And dead zombies.
Yeah, so he does those types of tutorials. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. And then if you want to learn how to create your own character or create like characters, that sort of thing, I'd say follow along with this Funko Pop tutorial. This one actually does like a really good job on like teaching like the basics of like character modeling and like the process that you'd go about doing it. I sent all of these videos in the meeting general. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'd say the Funko Pop definitely like helps like if you want like a sort of a shorter version of what the Blender Guru does. I say the Funko Pop one does a really good job at like just sort of teaching you like the basics of what you want to do, of how to use the Blender software and how to model and all of that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the workshop. I'll be in here if you want to ask some more questions or if you want to talk about some more Blender stuff. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, you could just ping me on the server or you could DM me. And yeah, hope you guys all have a good Thanksgiving, and thank you for coming. Yep. All right.